voting for this one bye week or no bye weeks, you know, just for the sake of just keeping things going. But no, appreciate it. I just wanted to give you a little bit of heads up where we're at. Obviously, you know, you're 6-4. Our guys are going out there, and we got some things to, I guess, look at and correct as we go back. This is a week to do that, just like the first week was, and just to reevaluate where we're at as a team. And obviously, we got some, you know, 2 more games over here to play the regular season, and we're looking forward to that. And obviously, getting into a bowl bid as possible. But you know, I'll leave it up to some questions if you guys like to ask.
Hey Phil, Chad Lysico, Des Moines Register. Looking ahead to Maryland quick, how big an advantage is it for them to have a coach that's seen your defense for 12 years, probably knows where the weak spots are? Do you feel like could be a big advantage, and how do you kind of combat against that?
Well, I think if you look at it, obviously he knows us pretty well. Probably knows the signals and everything too. But I think, you know, you go back in the system that we've been in for almost, you know, since I've been here and since 1999, there's variations of things that we've done. You know, since I've taken over, and I think it's 2012, things have changed. Football has changed. Our players have changed. So really, when it comes down to it, I don't know who has the advantage or disadvantage in that case. Obviously, I think our guys it would be a heck of a challenge just to go out to the East Coast and play a very good football team as you see that as they competed against Oregon last week. You know, so that's the challenge, is to make sure we can get our guys playing at a high level and getting ready for them guys. That's our next challenge.
Hey Phil, Elliot Clough, Hawkeye Beacon. I just was curious about Jay Higgins' status, if you expect him to be back against Maryland, and then what'd you think of Jaden Harrell and his relief of Jay when Jay was sidelined?
Yeah, I don't know enough about the injury stuff over there. I bumped into Jay, and you know, he's always seemed like he's ready to roll anyway, so I can't tell the difference, and I'm not really have any idea where he's at. I'm just making sure he has his time off and gets some free time to himself. But I'm sure if he could go, he'll go, you know, and that's a pleasure. Harold, now I think he went in there, you know, you could sit there and say, you got a kid coming in mid-game, you know, that's a little bit tough, you know, you're not the guy. I thought he went in and did a pretty good job in there. You know, there might have been one time he didn't set the front right, you know, right away, but I'm sure that was nervous. You know, the ball's in the middle of the field, anybody could make that mistake, and I don't really think it was a mistake. I just think other guys have to adjust to it, and I thought he did a really good job of going out there, gotten in the right defenses and in the right spot, and I thought he played physical, you know, and he did a good job for us to carry us through.
Scott Dochterman with The Athletic. In 3 straight road games, you guys have allowed 200 plus rushing yards, and I know that's one of your principal tenets is to shut down the running game. Is there a reason, or is there some sort of underlying factor that's really allowed that to happen? And if so, in what ways are you guys trying to keep that from happening?
Yeah, obviously, the opponents that you're playing, you know, they look at film too, and they're trying to attack you in different ways. But you know, whether you say it's because we're on the road that we're giving up that much, is that was the question?
It's just the way
the way it turns out. I wouldn't say just because it's on the road. I think it has to do with the guys playing, and whether it's, you know, being in the right spot, making the plays that you have to make, or not making the plays. That's what it comes down to. You know, we have 8 returning starter guys coming back this year. Everybody thinks that you're going to be just as good as you were last year. You guys don't understand that. Every day you go out there, it's a challenge, okay? And you have to earn everything you get. And I think that we'll keep on striving and keep on pushing these guys to be the best they can be every day. And I think that's what they're looking forward to. And we're looking forward to the next 2 games. Obviously, Maryland's the next one. And we're focused on how can we improve where we're at now until the game time. That's really what we're focused on.
Tom Kakert, Hawkeye Report. Phil, wanted to ask you about the corner position opposite Jamari. You've had various different starters there. How would you assess that position right now?
Yeah, I think there's, these guys are competing very hard for it, between Deshaun Lee, TJ Hall. Obviously Nestor's been out for at least a week or something, but I think there's some other guys we put in dime situation as a freshman. Watson went in and I think he did a decent job, you know what I mean? But I think there's, you know, obviously everybody, it goes with everything. When you're sitting there, you're looking at it, that might be one position that, you know, there's some opportunities that some guys can take care of.
Tyler Tashman with the Des Moines Register. It seemed like the Michigan State game, the UCLA game, there was issues tackling. Just curious what your diagnosis of that was.
Well, you know, football's a tough game when you go out there. It's all about angles and the angles that you take, and are you taking the proper angles to it. And you could see sometimes we were probably maybe a little bit anxious at the Michigan State game, overrunning plays, and them guys cutting it back. And then, you know, it's going back to the basic fundamentals of football. It's you know, obviously tackle the guy with the ball, but it's how you go about it and how you leveraging the ball. And that goes with all 11 guys, you know, with the front guys, the outside, you know, the backers, and the secondary. Are we all taking the same proper angles that we need to take to make sure the ball is being leveraged properly? And, you know, we talk about it all the time, and we're coaching it all the time. And obviously our guys are trying to work on that. Every day they go out there, anytime there's a play, it's a pursuit drill. And that's what we do. You gotta run to the ball, making sure you're in proper position, and you got your feet up underneath you, you got your eyes where they need to be, and your body position where you need to be at.
John Steffi, Gazette. Hi, Phil. Kind of curious your thoughts, kind of overall evaluating the pass rush now through 10 games.
Well, obviously, you know, give an example of last week, we have more guys, you know, chipping the tight ends, chipping the defensive ends now, the backs coming out of the backfield, chipping a little bit, so it's taking a little bit off of our pass rush a little bit. So I understand that, and I see why guys are doing it. It might give them an extra 1 or 2 extra seconds to get the ball off. So, you know, we'll keep on working on it. Kelvin does a great job, and Jay, and we'll get back to where we need to be. And not saying that it's been terrible, but it's, you know, obviously when those guys play well up front, you know, we do well overall.
Blake Horsey, Nauka headquarters. Phil, thanks for your time. I wanted to ask you about Jay Higgins from an intangible perspective. Seems like a guy, when we talk to him, he'll take ownership. If there was a breakdown in the defense, he'll put it on himself. And I just wanted to ask you how that stuff kind of resonates in the locker room. Seems like he's a guy that people tend to follow, and while that can be a prerequisite for a middle linebacker, it seems like he's just one of those guys that people are drawn to and want to follow.
Yeah, he's contagious, you know, of how he goes about his business. You know, it's important to him as a football player, and just a lot of guys. I mean, he prepares. He wants to know what he has to be doing, and we expect a lot out of him. And that's his job, you know, to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And so I think he's always been, you know, critical maybe of himself, sometimes too much. But he's been a great asset for us in the way he prepares and takes this game the way you're supposed to take the game.
Chad Lystico again. Kirk has often talked about when a 5th year or 6th year guy decides to come back for one more run, he's always nervous about it because he wants to make sure the buy-in is all there and everything like that. But I guess on the flip side, how have you seen all the young guys maybe that thought it was going to be their turn? How have you seen them kind of adapt to having to sit and wait a year? I mean, you can go down the line, Entringer, all these linebackers, you know, all those guys kind of waiting. How has the dynamic been, I guess?
Dynamic's been great. I mean, I think the chemistry within the defense has been really good. I think the younger kids are seeing things and learning from the older guys, and maybe they didn't recognize when they're first going into the meeting or at the beginning of the season, and now they see the wear and tear, that some of the things that, wow, this is a little bit more complicated than, you know, just lining up and playing football. You know, you got to know what you're doing. You got to have communication all the way across, and you got to be on top of your game. And some guys that we put in there, sometimes they find out real quick it's not as easy as you think. You know, you might think you're good enough to be out there, but how fast it is, the game has changed, and you got to be able to change direction. You got to be able to your thought process of how you're going to defend somebody, or recognize the situation, or recognize the formation, recognize the down and distance. What are they trying to do to you? And I think it's been a benefit for some of these young guys to actually see that go on. You know.
Scott Document again, and kind of the double-edged sword of having so much experience back is your younger players don't get as much experience themselves. However, in the secondary this year, you have played a lot of guys, whether it's in a dime package or rotating in a Lutmer, Entringer, the corners. Right now, how is your confidence, or has your confidence grown in them? And what do you see for them, not only now, but also through bowl prep and then into next year when they start making their own case on why they should be the starter?
Yeah, and I think, the good thing about it, we talked about Lutmer as a guy that's gone in there a couple different situations in the dime package, and Cohen's been going in and rotating a little bit. And you've seen the growth of the guys, and that's going to help us and benefit. And obviously, our focus right now is on Maryland and making sure that we get the right pieces together and the guys are contributing that need to be in the game. And, if a situation comes up and some of these guys need to play, they need to step up and play. And I think they're ready for it. I think they've been on the field now. They understand what it takes to go out and prepare for a week and actually be on the field and be accountable for that. So I'm looking forward for their growth, and I think it's helpful for everybody in the back end. Sometimes, you play, I think we played 72 plays last week. We've been normally about 59, 60 plays. So we played a little bit extra plays this year, last Friday. But I think that's going to help everybody in the long run of these guys taking reps and actually on live reps in the game. So it's going to benefit us in the future.
Tyler Cashman with the Des Moines Register. You mentioned that just because you guys bring back so many guys, it doesn't mean the defense is guaranteed to be the same as it was last season. And not to say that, the defense has been bad or anything, but there statistically has been a little bit of a drop off from last season. What are the reasons you feel like that has been the case?
I'll just go back to our expectations of what it is. As a defensive coordinator, you don't want them guys to gain a yard. So anytime they gain a yard, you're behind. You say, why'd they gain a yard? Or why'd they gain 10? I think the differences are explosive plays right now have been a little bit, I think we're right on schedule where we were last year at the end of it. So we're 3 games there and we're almost hit the explosives. But the bigger chunk plays have been too much. And for whatever reason, whether a guy's not in his gap or whether a guy has lost leverage, didn't see the ball, or whatever it is, that needs to be cleaned up. And I think that goes back to pursuing to the ball and making sure you guys, everybody's doing it every play, because you just don't know what play is going to make that difference. Our standards are very high, so when you say, hey, you drop down a little bit, well, yeah, for what we expect, you know what I mean? And guys know that, guys understand that. And just because you go out and practice doesn't mean you're going to play well on Saturday. You got to have perfect practices. Try to have perfect practices to have a chance to play well on Saturday. And then, there's no guarantee just because you practice, you're going to, do well on Saturday. But the guys on the other side are trying to play too. They're on scholarship or NIL money or whatever they're on.
Take 2 more, Scott and then Jack.
I don't know how much Maryland film you've watched thus far. I guess it's tape or video now, not film. But what have you seen, if you have? Ty Felton, their wide receiver, is one of the best, probably unknown receivers or little known receivers in the country. What does he present, and what about the quarterback, Billy Edwards, and how do they make things challenging for your defense next week?
Well, I haven't watched a ton of them yet, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to review some of the stuff that we've gone through and some, I guess you want to say self-scout stuff. But they're talented. I think, I don't know how many passes he's got, was it 79 or 80 passes? I mean, he's got that. It's going to be challenging. Anytime in college football today, there's not one team out there that you can let your guard down on. And you can see it for whatever reason. It's a more of a wide open offense, and people are doing a lot more things than they used to. And it's challenging for everybody to be able to practice everything against everything. You can't do it. So it's the preparation that you have to do, and it's definitely going to be a challenge. Away game again. As you brought up, but it's a game. You're still playing in the stadium. You're still playing on a 53 and a third wide, and then was it 120? Same field, right? There's only one ball, and we got to stop them from putting it in the end zone, and we got to put it in on the offense. Got to put it in the end zone. So, to me, you know, I just think that, you know, that they're a talented team. You know, you start seeing it, and one guy, and you sit back over there in the secondary, you might not see something in the defensive line. Maybe a guy misses a gap or something like that, but usually in the back end, it's easy to see these balls going over, and it's a 50-50 chance that you're either going to make the play or not make the play. And it's the benefit is more towards the offense, the way the world is nowadays. Right?
Hi, Phil Jackson with Casey here, last one. You now and Kirk a few weeks ago after the Michigan State game, it's been a lot of pointing inward, as in we need to tackle better. It's about our execution. When it comes to the other teams, is there, with UCLA, Michigan State, and Ohio State specifically, is there any concern that with all you've brought back and your scheme, that, to use this cliche, other teams kind of have the book on the defense a little more, or are you less concerned about that and more just, we're going to continue to do what we're doing, but it's all about us and our execution and our attack?
Well, I think it goes back to is what we do as coaches, as players. You know, it's us too. How can we help our players out? And I think that's the first thing. Anytime that you go into a game, the first thing I think about, what can I do better to make these guys play better? And that's the challenge. I mean, and it doesn't matter. I guess I should. You know, these things we do keep track of wins and losses, right? But even if we go out there and win, you're still critiquing these kids that they could be better, or we could coach better, or we could have made a better call. So if you don't have that mentality, and it's called, you know, to me, it's like you never arrive. If you kind of have that never arrive attitude, and you're always evaluating yourself, you know, whether it's a coach or whether it's a player, I think you got to do it. It's a sickness, I think, a little bit that you can't get rid of until you stop coaching. I mean, that's the way it is, because it doesn't matter how good. I remember when Bob Sanders was here. I actually saw him on the sideline out there at the UCLA game, and I just remember him. You know what I mean? Of all the plays he made, there's a whole bunch of other plays that he thought he could have made, and that's what makes the player he is or was when he was either here or whether he's in the NFL. And you can make a better play. Even though I made play, how can I make it better? You know, and it's I call it a sickness.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Phil.
And I'm so-